All right, so I realize it's been quite a while since I have talked about business on the podcast. And I was having a discussion with one of my mentees, and he was asking me a question about a pretty tight spot he had found himself in in a business venture, trying to make a business decision. And he was asking for my advice, and I advised him. And after I advised him, he was like, "Sir, you really need to put some of these things out there, some of this business out there, business advice out there, some more on your podcast." And when he said that, it kind of struck me that I had not spoken about business in a while on the podcast. And I've dealt a lot with spirituality, relationships, not so much business. I've talked about career, purpose, but not so much business advice. Um, and so today I just want to take some time to talk about business, although one of my best subject matters is talking about spirituality. And that's because I realized that spirituality kind of covers it all. Um, but when you're grounded spiritually, you get wisdom for business, you get wisdom for career, you get wisdom for relationships. But today I just want to talk about business. I enjoy talking about business because I spent a lot of my life doing business. 20 years of my slightly over 40 years right now doing business. That's about almost half my life doing business. And today I want to talk about things that I wish I had done better in terms of pricing and payment from clients. Things I wish I had done better, things I wish I knew, things I see a lot of people do, even in business right now, young entrepreneurs, young business people, people that might have one man businesses. Um, I see them make some of these mistakes. I have some of these misconceptions. And I want to talk to you about these things that I think you can try to avoid. I wish I had avoided them way earlier in my career as a designer. And these were some of the things I talked about with my mentee. And I want to thank my mentee, Tom, for um, just steering me in this direction. Thank you for steering me in this direction to have this conversation on the podcast. All right, so let's get right to it. I think the first thing that I really, really wish I I did better in the days when I was doing business in terms of pricing and working with clients. The first thing I really wish I'd done better is charging low to maintain relationships. Charging low to maintain relationships. And this is what I mean. I think a lot of us, when we want to work with somebody, we have a client that we really desire to work with, because a lot of us kind of gauge clients and kind of think it would be good to work with this person because this person might have return jobs. I would like to have this person in my portfolio. This person has a lot of connections and stuff like that. I want to use this person as a springboard to doing bigger jobs. So you just see this client as very integral in going forward as a business person. And so a lot of us have this mentality of, I don't want to scare this person away. So you might have a client approach you and say they want to work with you. A prospective client approach you and say they want to work with you. And you kind of say, man, I can't believe this person's approaching me. I can't believe that this person wants me to work with them. So I don't want to scare them away. I want to give as good an impression as possible that will make them come back. And then a lot of us, what we do is that we resort to this charging low, reducing our price. When I started working as a designer, I had a lot of people in the music industry then approach me. And sometimes, you can get starstruck and just saying, oh, this person, the music industry is such a popular artist and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, if I do a good job for this person, they would refer me to so and so. And they come with that pitch too, telling you, oh, just work for me, I will connect you to this. I know so many other people that would. And I found myself in this place where my price would be haggled down, and it wouldn't even be haggling. It would just be convincing me that this thing should be done at a very low price so that I can maintain them as clients. This is a mistake. I think your point of entry with a client should be as standard as possible for you as a business. Because one thing I realized with business is the way you start dictates how you continue. The rate you start with goes a long way to dictate what the client would expect, or the range they expect that your range would be in. That's the reality. When you start cheap, the client is going to expect things to be cheap going forward. Clients get very used to the taste you give them in their first encounter with you. So if you are cheap, they believe that things will be cheap. So you must be very careful, and you must consider seriously what your first impression, the first impression you want to give off to a client is. I wouldn't advise anyone to reduce their rate because they want to stay or keep or retain a client. It gets very hard to increase afterwards. It gets very hard to suggest a standard rate afterwards. What you start with most times becomes your standard. I have people that I work with very early on in business, and I started off by doing close to free work with them. Close to free, very cheap or even free. It amazes me that now that I've even built a name, those people still come to me and still require free stuff. They just believe that they are in a different category from all other people I've worked with. No matter how impressive my portfolio goes, no matter how strong my personal brand is, they will still say, Tola, can you work on this? Well, you know me, I don't have money, I'll pay. I can't pay anything. I'll pay whatever I have. And whenever I look back at it, they're always the people that I started out saying, pay whatever you have or don't pay anything. So we need to be careful, especially if you're starting out in business. Don't be so desperate to retain a client that you drop your price standards. A lot of us, we fall into this error when we are so impressed by a client and we're just desperate to keep the client. We drop our price standard and raise our work standard. So you do your best work for very little. I want to have you know that if you start like that, you'll continue like that. You'll continue like that. Not only would the client require the best of your work, the client would also require that you do it for very little. Now, there's nothing wrong in doing the best of your work, but if you're doing the best of your work, please make sure that you're being paid for doing the best of your work, being paid well for doing the best of your work as a business, if you want to stay in business. Because I can guarantee you that your first impression is something called novelty. When the client has never worked with you before, they can't size you up. So they go by everything that you do and say and how you present yourself. After which, there's the diminishing returns. That novelty wanes off. A first-time client finds it very hard to haggle price with you. A first-time client will find it very hard to haggle price with you because they don't know you, you don't know them. They want to keep some of their integrity. So a lot of first-time clients, they would rather ghost you when they feel your price is too high than to tell you to come down. But when they come the second time, the novelty has waned a little bit. And they kind of know you. They see that you are human. You're not a spirit. You understand? They realize that you are someone they can interact with, and then it's easier for them to say, "Okay, what's the best you can do for us now?" That thing is very hard for someone that doesn't know you, who has never worked with you, to say. But you see, once you start working with somebody and their first experience is something that says you charge pretty low, you are cheap, they would come back a second time confidently asking for you to be cheaper. Confidently. So you want to start as close to standard as possible. Don't get starstruck with clients. Don't have this stuff in your mind, this ambition in your mind that, oh, I would work with this client and they would open new doors to me. Yes, they might open doors for you. They might introduce you to people. They might be great clients, but keep your standard. As much as possible, I want to advise that people maintain your standards when you're working with a client. Maintain your standard, maintain your pricing as much as possible when you're working with a client. The second thing that I want to talk about, second thing I wish I had done better when I was doing business in terms of pricing and in terms of charging clients and payment and getting payment from clients is requesting for balance on time. Requesting for balance payment on time. You see, a lot of us, we have this mentality that we want to keep our composure. So you work for a client and the client pays you an upfront payment. And afterwards, the client is meant to pay you a balance payment. Now, I'm going to come to that. I'm going to talk about this dynamics of upfront and balance payment. But you have work on a client, they pay you an upfront, and you deliver the work, and they're meant to pay you your balance. You see, I used to do this thing. I used to try to be very civil. And I say civil, that might be the wrong word because you should be civil in business. But what I mean is I try to be very gentlemanly and give the client some time. So when I deliver the work, I wait 2-3 days before I ask for my balance payment. I don't think this is very helpful for you as a business. It never helped me as a business person. And this is why I'm still going to go back to that first experience would lay precedence for future experiences. So most of the time they would pay me an upfront payment, maybe 50%, 70%, and then I'll deliver, and then I would wait. And I'll wait 2, 3, 4 days before I get back to them just to remind them about this. This was not professional. And I want to tell you that this is not professional if you're working as a business. What you need to do is once you are delivering, please invoice your client for the balance payment. Please, as soon as possible, as you are delivering, let it go out with a request for payment. Very important. Very important. It is the right way to do business. The right way to do business. In fact, I was taught this by my sister. And my sister, works in procurement. So she's very knowledgeable about procurement. And she just used to tell me, look, whenever you work and you work with a client, immediately request for payment. Don't delay. So it's official. There's nothing wrong with it. If any client should try to guilt trip you, don't allow them guilt trip you. You are following due process immediately, not a day later. As you are delivering, request for payment. Request for payment. It's an insecurity that stops us from requesting for payment. We must always request our payment. Request your payment once you've delivered. Request your payment once you delivered. So that was a mistake I made. I would delay requesting for payment. And when I do request for payment, I would not ask consistently. And I need to talk about this too. So not only should you request payment after you've delivered, but if that payment is not made, keep requesting payment consistently. And when I mean day after day. Day after day. Very important. Day after day, you request for payment. Don't get tired. Don't let them make you feel like if you are desperate. It is the proper thing to do. So you request, they don't reply. Next day you request again. You keep requesting. You keep requesting. Now this might be awkward. It might feel awkward for you. But once you start to feel awkward with something, know that the awkward feeling is a reciprocal feeling. So know that most clients too, I know there's some clients that might not feel, but most of them would also begin to feel awkward by this daily message they are getting from you. Now, the truth of the matter is delayed payment, once your payment is delayed, you have little control. When it comes to balance payment, you have little control. Little control. All you can, the best you can do is request. And what I'm trying to say is that once somebody is owing your balance, you are at their mercy. You are at their mercy. You cannot dictate when they will pay you back or when they will pay your balance. But then I want you to know that even though you can't dictate when they will pay your balance, what you are really doing is making them know that in the future, you do not joke with your balance. And I think this is very important for us to keep in mind. Your balance might be delayed, but you consistently and immediately asking for your balance would send it to the client that when I'm working with this person immediately they are delivering, they are going to need their balance. And that's very important. You see, when I was doing business, I used to give clients a lot of rope when it came to paying my balance. I would not ask them because I felt it was ungentlemanly. It was not civil to ask them immediately. Give them some breathing room. That was wrong. That was unprofessional. It was very unprofessional. And a lot of them got used to it. That when I now started to ask for my balance, they're like, have I ever owed you money before? Have I never did this? Have I ever did this? Some of them will even say, have I ever delayed? So that means they didn't even see the 1 to 2 weeks delay as a delay. They thought it was just, that's how Tola doesn't need the money. You understand? But you don't want your clients to ever have that impression of you. You want them to know that once your work is delivered, you would come calling. And I want to have you know that the normal human being would always settle the most pressing things first. So the more you press, the more they want to have it settled so that they can have their mind and some of their peace back. But if you're someone that doesn't come calling, the normal human being would always put you last. They will put other things that are more pressing before you. And this has been a frustration for most business people. So request your balance payment immediately and consistently. Request immediately and consistently. And I also think at this point, you might have some clients tell you when they are going to pay you. So when you request immediately, they'll say, you know what, I'll pay you next week. I'll pay you end of the month. One thing I also want you to know is that you do not have to agree with their payment or with their payment terms or how long it will take for them to pay you. You do not have to. I used to have that when I request, they say, okay, I'll pay you next week. No. Now, I'm going to say this, you don't have a control over when they will pay you. Because if they say they will pay you next week, if they're going to pay you next week, they'll pay you next week. If they say end of the month, you don't have control. But what I'm saying is the impression is what you want to is what you have control over. You might not have control over the outcome, but you have control over the impression you leave for the client. And that's very important because the impression is what makes them put themselves in order the next time they come. So the outcome of the first one might be bad, but if you leave an impression that you do not appreciate that bad outcome, they will come the next time knowing that you don't appreciate certain things. So even if they tell you, okay, you know what, I'll pay your balance payment in 2 weeks' time. If 2 weeks' time is not convenient for you, please, you have the right to voice it out. You have the right. There's nothing wrong with that. You have the right. The client has no right to tell you when they're going to pay you as long as you have delivered the product. As long as you're delivered, they have no right. In fact, it becomes a civil issue if they do not pay you on delivery. You can take them to court, but that's only in extreme cases. Court is where you can take people to when they don't pay you. But that's going to take more time and might take more finances. But I'm saying that in terms of civility, it is very okay for you to stand on having your payment as at when you request it, as long as you have delivered. So if a client tells you, you know what, I'll pay in 2 weeks' time, it is very okay for you to return reply the client saying, you know what, 2 weeks' time is too tight for me. It's too tight. We can't work with that timeline. I would appreciate if I'm paid tomorrow. I would appreciate if I'm paid in 3 days' time. I would appreciate if you don't have to go into any explanation. If you want to go into explanation, you can say, oh, I need to pay my vendors, I need to pay my subcontractors, I need to pay up for this. You can do that, but you can also end that I would appreciate if I am paid at this time. Now, as I've said, you have no control. That's the truth. If someone is saying they're going to pay you 2 weeks' time, and you can say as much that you would appreciate, and they will still pay you in that 2 weeks' time, but then you have given an impression, a very strong impression, by saying you do not appreciate and that you would appreciate. You've told them how you would rather work. And because it has gotten awkward, remember that awkward feeling is usually mutual. The client most people do not like awkward situations. So when and if they are coming back, they will try to see, how can I make this less awkward than it was the first time? So if you are requesting your balance payment and the client is giving you a date that is not convenient for you, please, it's very okay for you to tell the client, you know what, I cannot work with 5 days. Would appreciate if you get it tomorrow. Would appreciate if you, and it's very, very okay for you to tell the client, oh, we do not appreciate that we've not been paid in the last 5 days. We've not been paid. It's very, very okay for you to say that. Some clients will try to guilt trip you by telling you you've been rude, but that is not true. What you are doing is you're trying to give an impression for what your business stands for and how you would like to do business. So you can tell your client that you really do not appreciate the fact that your money has been held for 2 weeks, even when they pay. So if they say they're going to pay in 2 weeks and you don't like it, when you get the money in 2 weeks, you can say money received, but then we do not appreciate the fact that the money took 2 weeks for us. Those things are very important. Yes, your money came late, but your impression that you leave, you would keep that intact. And that's very important. That's very important for you as a business. So I want to overlabor that point. The third thing is, I wish I'd learned not to pay external vendors over 20% of the total budget. Now I'm going to explain what that means. And this was one of the things I was talking about with my mentee. You see, a lot of us, when we offer services, we offer some services that we do not directly engage in. So some services are services that we would need to subcontract. That's perfectly okay. That's fine. You cannot do everything. And sometimes to scale your business, you might need to subcontract some things. So what I mean is, you might be a graphic designer, but you're not an illustrator. So when anybody comes to you with a graphic design job that needs illustration, you need to subcontract part of that project to an illustrator. That is fine. However, a lot of us don't understand that when it comes to subcontracting, your subcontractor should not be paid anything over 20% of the total budget. 20% is the maximum. 20%. That means if the whole project is 50,000 naira, your subcontractor, your illustrator, should not charge anything more than 10,000 naira. More than 10,000 naira. So I see some people work with people, subcontractors. I have a friend that does this. We can work on this project together and stuff. So you take the job, 50K, and your friend is saying for his own half of the job, he's going to take 25K. That's too much. That's the friend is taking 50% of the total budget of the job. That is too much. That means you cannot actually afford that subcontractor. You can't afford that vendor. You cannot afford that vendor. So you're an event planner and you have a photographer that comes whenever you're doing event planning, and he comes with you and he charges you more than 20%. 20% should be the most. I'm not even saying 20% is what they should charge as a standard. I'm saying 20% should be the extreme. That person should not take more than 20%. That means 5% is okay, 10% is okay, 15% is okay, 20%. 20% is the limit. Because once you start having vendors or subcontractors charging more than 20%, then what you have become to that vendor is an affiliate marketer. As a matter of fact, you started working for that person, not the person working for you. That person can build a business just on your calling them to work as a subcontractor on your project. And that shouldn't be. What they are doing is coming to assist you as a direct vendor. They shouldn't be taking more than 20%. They shouldn't be. It doesn't mean they're charging too high. It just means that they are too high for you. They are too high for you. So if you have somebody, you are working as a web person, and you have somebody that does graphic design for web for you, and the person is charging so much, then it means that they are not the graphic designer for you. They are not your graphic designer. They are not for you. They are billing too high for you. So we must always keep this in mind. So some people might say, you know what, why do I care so much? As long as the client can pay it, I'll just fix in that subcontractor cost into my total budget and the client would pay for it. Now, the problem with that is that we assume that everything would go as planned. Now, when you just fix in a subcontractor whose percentage is more than 20%, and just you put it into your own pay, into what you charge the client, and just let the client go and figure out how to pay this, and that will make the total budget, the subcontractors over 20% bill, and then your own bill. What happens when the project falls through? For some reason, the client wants to discontinue, he's not happy, your subcontractor absconds, the person dies, falls ill, something happens. You are now in an awkward position of finding it difficult to refund. It now becomes very hard to make refunds, because what has happened is that you now have to take a hit of over 20%. And this is why a lot of people run away when things fall through. They just abscond, they just disappear, because they cannot get that money anymore. The money has gone to too many subcontractors to whom they cannot hold. They cannot find them. They cannot hold them. They cannot get the money from them. So they can't make the money appear. So they just disappear. This is why you have a lot of police cases of clients looking for business owners that cannot deliver on a job or cannot refund on a job that has fallen through, because they've worked with subcontractors that are not within their limit. So 5%, okay. 10%, okay. Very important that you do not work with if you have a subcontractor that is charging over 20% for an aspect of your delivery, it means that that thing should not be in your delivery in the first place. It means that your company should not be charging for that. It means that you do not have enough control over that aspect of your delivery. So if you're doing branding for somebody and you're charging 100,000 for branding, and then it involves doing a website, and the website costs you 60,000, it means that you have no business offering website design as a business. Just offer what you can and take out the website from there, because that website design is going to be an albatross to you. If that thing falls through and the client just says, I do not like this website, you know what, I don't like this entire project, you are now stuck in a place of asking that web designer for 60,000 naira or 50,000, whatever you're giving him upfront. That's a very messy situation to be in. It's a very messy situation to be in. So I would say work with subcontractors that don't charge you more than 20%, no matter how good they are. You do not choose your subcontractors by how good they are. You choose them by how much you can afford them. It's that 20% that makes you choose this person can be a subcontractor, not how good they are. You understand? So you look for somebody that can work within that 20% and can deliver something that suffices. You understand? So a lot of us have this dream expectation, we want to work with the best subcontractors. No. Sometimes you might have to work with someone that charges way less, but you have to micromanage the person to perfection. But some of us want to work with the biggest people that ad agencies are working with, more established companies are working with, and these people are eating into your profit, eating into your income as a business person. So work with those you can afford, not particularly those you like. Or if you know that these people that you can, those who you can afford, their work is not good enough, then strike them off. You don't need subcontractors. Focus on things that you can control the delivery and the standard on your own end. I think the fourth thing is not requesting full payment. One thing I regret is not requesting full payment after a particular period of time of working with a client. Now, a lot of us have gotten used to this upfront payment, balance payment. But I want to have you know that this is a risk management or trust management procedure. It is not standard. It should not be standard. This upfront payment, 50% pay me upfront, pay me 30% on delivery, is only for trust and risk management. That means this only applies when you're working with somebody with whom you have not established a pattern. So there's no trust. So if you're working with someone for the first time, for the first few times, that is first 1, 2, 3 times, it's okay to do upfront and balance payment. But after which, it is perfectly normal, and I would even say expected, that a client you've worked with 3 times, in behavioral science, a pattern is established by doing something 3 times. If you worked with a client 3 times and you've delivered, you have every right to say, I want to be paid 100% of my money upfront. It can go one of two ways. It's either that client is enough trust and confidence to do the work and deliver and they pay you 100%, or they should have enough trust in you to pay you 100% and you deliver. This process of upfront and balance payment is only before you build trust. While you build trust, while you show yourself trustworthy, it shouldn't be something you are doing with a client that you've been working with for the past 5 years. It only complicates things. It's not necessary. It's a bad habit. I've been working with this client for the past 5 years. Every year we work on about 10 projects together. I deliver, they've never had any issues. That client should not be paying me 70%, 90% upfront and paying me I should not have anything to do with balance payment with this client. I shouldn't have anything to do with balance payment with this client anymore. So I said it can either go 2 ways. With this kind of client, there should be enough trust for me to do the job and get paid my balance after I've done it, and get paid my full payment after I've done it. Or there should be enough trust for them to pay me way ahead of the project, not way ahead. They can even pay me way ahead. That can happen, but ahead of the project, and say, we trust that you would deliver. Because there's been a pattern of delivery. We shouldn't have this awkward back and forth thing of, okay, pay your pay. No. That shouldn't happen. That balance payment thing shouldn't happen. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. This only happens where there is no trust. Where there is no trust. So asking for 100% payment upfront is not wrong, as long as there has been a pattern of prompt delivery. Prompt delivery. That's why it's very important that once you are working with a client, you take into account what your first few experiences with that client is. When you're working with them, you try to put your best foot forward. It's very important that you put your best foot forward. So requesting 100% payment upfront is not ridiculous. It's not you being a diva. It's not you being difficult. It's not you being proud. It's just what should be. I work with people. I have tailors that I work with. Tailors, That's so for me. I don't have to do, okay, when you come, I'll give you the balance payment. No. In fact, when I do balance payment with them, it's with apology. I'll say, please don't be annoyed. I just don't have the money with me right now. Please, when you come, I will pay you. Or whenever I have it before the process is done, I will pay you. It is almost disrespectful for me to be working with a tailor for 5 years and to just be insistent on upfront payment, part payment. No. Especially if the tailor has given a pattern of swift, satisfactory delivery. So let's not make the abnormal normal. Effective business should build trust, and that should come by a client being able to pay 100%. And sometimes for the business people, I'll have you know that should come by you even saying, I can do this, commit first. No, don't worry about the payment. Don't worry about the payment. Don't worry about the payment yet. Let me finish the job. You can pay me later. Just some days ago, I went to a supermarket and I went to buy some things. And by the time they used my ATM card, it was being declined for some reason, some network issues. So I told them, you know what, keep the things I bought. Can you just keep them just behind your till or beside the till, and let me go and get my phone so I can do a transfer, because I didn't go out with my phone. Because it was just a stone throw from my house. I didn't go with my phone, so I couldn't do a transfer. So I said, if the card is not going through network issues, maybe I probably should do a transfer. So I told them, keep the things. And there were quite a number of things. I said, keep the thing, and I would come back with my phone and do a transfer. And the guy at the till told me, why? Why? So you want to go back home, come back, and take your stuff, then do it? No. He said, no. He said, take it home. He said, take it home and do a transfer from home if your phone is not here. So he gave me, printed out the receipt, wrote their account details behind it, and said, take it and go and do a transfer at home. You see, at first I was like shocked. I'm like, why? Why is this guy being so nice? Why are they being so kind? But I realized it's not really about being kind. It's that there's been a pattern of effective, successful transaction. I've been shopping in that place for the past almost 2 years now. I go there almost 3 times a week. So it will be ridiculous for them to say, okay, we'll keep this thing, then you go home, and then you'll transfer it, and then we'll come and release to you. So, at first I was like, oh man, they're a really good company. They're a good supermarket. I would say I was really impressed by what they did. But then I realized it's not all them. Some of it is because I've been a good customer too. You understand? So this successful business transaction. So sometimes some business people are just too difficult. There are some clients who just tell you, okay, I'm not around right now. I need you to do so and so and so. And I'm like, okay, and so who's going to pay me since you're not around? No, you don't do that. You don't do that. Especially if you've been working with this person, they've been known to pay you, you allow them. And just say, okay, no problem. Whenever you get back, you can pay me. So as okay as it is for you to ask for 100%, and to be honest with you, you don't need to ask for it if the client is really, really being reasonable. You don't need to ask for it. They should just be able to trust you enough to just say, okay, I know your rate. Unless you change your rate, I'll pay you. Go and start the job, get it done. You understand? But it should also be something you are able to do for them too. So the last thing I want to talk about, which I wish I knew when I started doing business, especially in terms of charging and pricing and relating with clients on price, is not defending my cost or my price, especially when clients say it's why is it so expensive? Not spending so much time answering the question, why is it so expensive? I believe there's only one answer to this question. And if you're not giving that one answer, you are talking too much. When a client comes to you and asks you why your rate is so expensive for something, a product, a service you're putting out there, you can say, why is it so expensive? If you're not giving this one answer, you're talking too much. You're draining yourself of emotion. And it's probably not going to be very effective, whatever you say. I believe the only answer to that question, why is this so expensive, is to say, that is what we charge. That is what I charge. That is what we charge as a company. Every other thing you say is saying too much. If you start defending it, number one, it means that you are already telling the client that your price is too expensive. You're already agreeing that it's too expensive. But that word too expensive doesn't really exist. It's only comparative. It's only comparative. So the only way you should answer that question is if the client should ask you, why is this so expensive compared to this? And then that client is looking for clarity, and then you know the yardstick by which that client is coming up with this adjective of expensive. So it's only when they say, oh, why is this so expensive compared to your basic plan? Why is this so expensive compared to your standard plan? Why is this your premium plan so expensive compared to this? Then you can now start talking about what you've put into it, what goes into it, what extra things you offer with this your plan. But if the client just asks you why is it expensive without anything to compare it with, all you need to say is that's how much we charge. That's what we charge for it. That's how much we charge for it. So you don't know what the client is comparing it to. Is he comparing it to something he bought 10 years ago? Something he or she has never bought before? Something another vendor is doing in another town, in another country? You don't know what they're comparing it to. Unless the client brings a point of comparison that you can identify. So it's not even saying, oh, I bought this thing in China. Why is it so expensive here? You don't know what the dynamics of the person in China is. You don't need to defend that. You understand? You don't need to say anything. Just say, that's how much we charge here. They wouldn't go to China and tell someone in China, why is it so expensive? I buy this thing in Nigeria. Because I don't know what goes on in Nigeria. I don't know what the market factors are in Nigeria. So when it even comes to comparing, I advise that the client compares it with something you actually offer, that you can actually point out differences. But something another business is doing, you don't know what's going on that business. You don't know whether that business is laundering money and just using what they are doing as a cover, so they will take any amount for it. But you are doing a straightforward job. So if they are comparing your price to a company that is laundering money, you would always seem more expensive. Because what the company that is laundering money only wants to do is to show that people are coming and going. That's all they need. So sometimes it's very unfair for clients to compare your business to another business to whom you don't have any concept of what's going on behind closed doors. So when a client should ask you, why is your service or your product so expensive, and they're not comparing it to something else you are offering, please, I would advise that you save your emotions and your presentations and just say, this is how much we charge. This is how much, this is the price that we put on it. Full stop. Whoever is going to work with you will work with you. But you do not need to defend your rate, especially compared to somebody else in another country, in another business, in another state, someone who you do not know. The only comparison should be with what you offer. Two products. So if you have two products you're offering, and you might be running a supermarket, and someone say, why is this so expensive compared to that one that I usually buy? What's better about this? That is what you need to be able to articulate. Not why yours is so expensive compared to Madam This down the road. You don't know who Madam This down the road is. And you don't know why she's selling at that price. If they feel Madam This down the road is very comfortable, they should go and buy with Madam This down the road. But you must be confident about what you are selling or offering the client. So those are the things I would really like to share with someone doing business out there today. Those are things I wish I knew when I started doing business. Those are the things I wish I understood about pricing and charging dynamics and client interaction. If I knew these things, I would have had less ugly situations than I had, especially when it came to charging and pricing in business. So I hope someone find this helpful. I hope it makes sense to an entrepreneur out there. Once again, I want to thank my mentee for reaching out to me and asking me to share this on the podcast. Yeah, so yeah, as much as possible, if you have any questions in terms of business that you want to ask, any questions in terms of spirituality that you want to ask, any questions in terms of relationships that you want to ask, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. My number is +234-80-232-66249. Please send me a message on WhatsApp. Please do not call that number. Or you can join my Telegram Q&A group. You can reach out to me on WhatsApp, and I'll just give you an invite to join my Telegram Q&A group, and you can ask whatever question you want to ask. So yeah, my name is Tola T. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.